Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Attacking football.
Welcome back to the Attacking Football podcast, where today the Premier League title race is the topic of discussion. To mark the three-way race for glory, we have three panel members, including myself, each with similarities with one of the teams, even if we don't support all of them. First up, we have Dylan, whose idea of dinner is quite boring, but it gets the job done, a bit like Man City's playing style. Then we have Josh, a new member to the podcast, but in no way inferior, a bit like Arsenal in the title picture. And of course, we have myself. I have a lot of energy, passion, and Amad Diallo ruined my weekend. Yes, that is right, I am Liverpool. So let's take a look at the current league table, and based on this, who do you think has the upper hand, Dylan?
I think City. I think it's hard to look past City realistically. Although I have said for a while that I can see Liverpool doing it, it's just the Klopp factor final season. I'm not really sure about what the run of games is. I think City have the hardest run of games left, don't they? I think it's hard to look past City. I don't think they're anywhere near the same side as they were last season. I don't know if you feel the same. I just feel that they're missing something somewhere in the park. In my opinion, I think they're missing Grealish. I think what Grealish gives that City team is control in the final third. And a lot of the games this season I've watched of City have been hectic basketball matches back and forth. Not the type of football you'd associate with a Pep Guardiola team. The Chelsea game at Stamford Bridge was one of the wildest Pep Guardiola games I've ever seen. It was like watching a Manchester United match. Genuinely, I'm sure you've all seen that game. Have you? Break my soul and my heart and make me cry in the middle of the street by getting that farewell tour. I can genuinely picture, because I've been in Liverpool before. I was in Liverpool the night they won the Champions League.
Wait, I think I forgot to put my mic on record.
Oh my lord, he didn't do it.
So what about you, Josh? Who do you think has the upper hand?
Well, actually, quite fittingly, Scott, for your intro, I'm actually going with Arsenal, which I think is quite an unpopular opinion when you speak to most people. But to me, that's quite a surprise considering they're currently sitting top. Look, I think, as Dylan said, Man City have the hardest run in, and 100% I agree they're missing something. Whether it's Grealish, I don't know that their defence is fully settled, personally. I know Kyle Walker's a speed machine, but they just don't seem as secure as they have done. And flip that on its head, Arsenal's defensive record has been unbelievable this season. And when you look at where they were last season at a similar point where they were ahead and everyone's calling like, yeah, they've been here before and they were clawed back, or actually, well, they threw it away, if we're being honest. They were playing Rob Holding. They didn't have Saliba. They had Kieran Tierney playing the odd game, Zinchenko playing the odd game. It wasn't settled. Whereas this season, their defensive record has been unbelievable. And couple that with some of the scorelines they're putting in at the top end as well in the last few weeks, I would say it's giving them an extra point in the title race. But with Man City and Liverpool, like, they can pull a big result out of the hat and claw that back. So I just think there's something different about them. I just think Rice gives them a little bit more security in the midfield, but maybe not in the way that we thought he was going to. He seems to have pushed a little bit further up the pitch than where he was playing for West Ham. But that partnership he's built with Odegaard is pretty formidable. And I think Saka had a little bit of a blip, but they seem to have rode that particular speed bump, right? And they seem to have got over that. And whereas before they were a bit reliant, the goals are being spread around the team a bit. I think also for me, Mikel Arteta is one of the most annoying managers in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And it would just be the cherry on top of that cake for him to win a Premier League, because I feel like he would just have that extra layer of smug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When someone's just got a little bit too much sun cream on, they've got too much makeup, whatever it is, you could just see there's something not quite like that will be Mikel Arteta, and I just feel like it's bound to happen. But like I say, the thing is there's still some big fixtures to come, right? So Liverpool have to play United, which now has an extra edge after the weekend. And this wasn't done on purpose, Scott, but I have worn my Boys Get Sad Too hoodie for you. It's okay. You can be sad about it.
I was done on purpose.
Yeah. But look, Arsenal and City have to play. Like, that's the first match back after the international break, right? and that is at the Etihad, I still back them to do it. I also think Spurs are going to have something to say. I know that they're a bit up and down, but they're Man City's bogey team. I think they play the kind of high tempo football where we could get a Spurs Liverpool game, like we've just had the United Liverpool game. And then you just never know. With Man United, you never know what team's going to turn up.
Yeah.
So look, I think it's going to be interesting, but I just think Arsenal are going to do it. There's just something that says to me they are, and again, it's the fan base. Everything about it screams it's inevitable, and I just think this is the year it's going to happen because City look a bit off it. I know we've got the Klopp element, but I don't know. I don't know if he's going to get that all singing, all dancing farewell. It may well just be a Carabao Cup and thanks very much and see you later. That's that's what I'm hoping, if I'm being honest. But that's where I see it at the moment. Like I say.
Yeah, for myself, it's like I think that City Arsenal game at the end of March is gonna really decide what way I'm going. But obviously, as a Liverpool fan, I have hopes that we'll go on and do it. But I could honestly see it coming down to where the last day of the season, all three teams are on the exact same amount of points, and it comes down to goals scored, not even goal difference, goals scored. And I think if it comes down to that, Arsenal are flying. They've scored like 20 goals in like their last 4 games or something. Like if it comes, it will be heartbreaking if it comes down to goals scored.
That's a gut-wrenching way for a title to be decided.
Yeah.
And look, when you look at the last games or the games on the last day of the season, so Arsenal play Everton at home, so all 3 teams are at home.
Yeah.
Liverpool play Wolves, and City play West Ham. So who has the hardest game?
Why do Liverpool always play Wolves in the last game?
We always play Wolves at the end of the season.
Always, even the year of the Villa goal, or the Villa when Coutinho scored the second goal, you were against Wolves that day as well.
Yeah.
You feel though, on the topic of that goal scored, I know Arsenal have scored a lot of goals in recent weeks and everything like that, but I feel like if you look at Liverpool's attack, I feel like there's more goals in Liverpool's attack than in any other team. Like I know, look, Haaland scores a lot of goals, but Liverpool have Diaz who can score goals, they've Núñez who can score goals. Whenever Jota's back, Jota can score goals.
He's back in light training today, so he'll be back.
Exactly, I think he was back at Axel, So, but then you look at City, Doku hasn't been scoring a lot of goals. Obviously, Foden scores goals, but I don't feel like they have as many options, even coming off the bench for Liverpool. And look, Gakpo's coming under huge criticism at the minute, but he can score goals. He's able to score goals. Elliott can score goals. So if it does come down to goals scored, I wouldn't be surprised to see Liverpool rise and rise and rise in these last 10 games and get a lot of goals. Hopefully it's not another 7-0 at Old Trafford against Manchester United, however.
Yeah. But coming back to the easiest game on the last day of the season, I think it's actually Liverpool who have the easiest game because West Ham won't be an easy game, and if Everton are still needing points to fight relegation, they'll go to that match trying to get points. And I think there's nothing worse than facing a team fighting relegation on the last day of the season.
Are City at Goodison?
No.
All at home.
Arsenal have Everton at home.
Arsenal have Everton at home.
Yeah. And then City have West Ham
It still is a tough game. You know, the Deutsch factor, you literally have to put the Deutsch factor in, especially dependent on whether they get another deduction in the coming weeks. That could be crucial because I know Forest got the 4-point deduction yesterday. So Everton are apparently due another 2 points.
Yeah.
Ornstein said a few weeks ago, so that could really put them in the trenches.
Is that going to be known this season if they confirm that?
I think so. I think Ornstein said it will be this season. Yeah, and like Leicester's is next season, which is a bit mad. Yeah. So Leicester are going to come up and get a points deduction immediately, but Everton's is this season. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky situation.
Yeah, so it could come down to it that Wolves are the only team out of them because West Ham might be fighting for a European place as well. So Wolves would be like the only team who have nothing to play for on the last day of the season.
I think Wolves could be too. I mean, they're 3 points off West Ham with a game in hand. And what is it? 8th place could be getting European football this season. I think all teams will be proper going for points. And I think Dylan's right. It depends if Everton will be desperate for points if they get another point deduction. But I think they're all in.
Yeah.
And look, I know the focus here is on the big three, right? But when you look at another team who have something to play for in a big way, Aston Villa,
Yeah.
right? So they actually play almost with an equal amount of space between each one. Man City first, then Arsenal, then Liverpool is like the penultimate game. So that's at Villa Park. So Arsenal were playing them at the Emirates, Liverpool were playing them at Villa Park, and Man City playing them at the Etihad. Like that's not an
Yeah.
easy game. That, like regardless, like, and I know that Villa have got Europe to think about, and you would imagine that if there's a sniff of them going deep in that tournament, the king of all European trophies, Unai Emery, is gonna chase it and try and make it happen. But yeah, I just think there's some really interesting games, like and teams that can pull out results. You know, I don't think I look at Man City, and I speak about Man City specifically because I do think we've had this in the last few years. I don't think you look at Man City's running and go, I don't see them losing. And that's to me anyway, and that's the difference this season. I don't think I look at it and go, that's a shoe-in. Like Arsenal, Liverpool have to win their remaining games in order to win the title. I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, like Aston
They
Villa,
have
they've
United.
already beat City and Arsenal both at Villa Park this season. But I think a bit of copium for myself is they were playing Villa when Villa had that home record that they were fighting for.
Yeah.
The kind of the aura about the home record. But since then, they've lost a few games at home by quite a large margin. Like they lost 4-1 to Newcastle, and they lost 3-0 to Chelsea as well in the cup.
They got McTominay as well.
Yeah.
But you can say that about a lot of teams this season. I mean, more recently, Liverpool.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting McTominay. It's McTominay season.
He's inevitable.
I look, I don't know how he's doing it. I always say, right, a bit off topic, but you need them type of players in your team. Like Liverpool have them types of players. I'm not going to say I think Harvey Elliott's a better player than McTominay, probably, but you need them type of players in your team that are going to come off the bench and have an influence. Harvey Elliott had that influence at the weekend, hugely, although it was deflected, but he was brilliant. I thought Harvey Elliott was one of Liverpool's better players on the weekend. But, yeah, look, I love Scott McTominay, so.
If you think Elliott could be like Liverpool's like off the bench star, what about City and Arsenal? Who do you think could be for them?
Do City have one?
That's that's.
Docu's been really poor, in my opinion, in the past number of weeks.
Like, I think he has 7 goals and assists, and 5 of them came in that one game against Bournemouth.
Exactly, and since then I haven't seen a lot of them. Like City made some signings in the summer that are hugely questionable.
Yeah, I think Kovacic was questionable as well.
But the Matheus Nunes, I actually thought Matheus Nunes was a very good player, but I think Matheus Nunes is better suited to a transition-based team.
Mm-hmm.
It was a transition-based team. I didn't watch much of Sporting when he was at them, but in the Champions League there was definitely a lot of times where they were pinned back and Nunes would come out on the transition, which probably made Pep think this player is unbelievable. But there's not that many transitional moments in City's game, so he hasn't been the best signing. But Julian Alvarez, you could say off the bench for City is an impact player.
Yeah. I mean, also
Arsenal, Gabriel Jesus, he's been injured, calf injury.
Trossard as
well. So when's he due back?
Trossard is as well. I actually don't know when he's due back, to be honest, but I think he's a major miss for City. Huge.
Yeah, just going back to what you were saying earlier, could he be someone who comes in and changes that fortune? You know, someone they've been without. I mean, off the bench maybe.
Absolutely. I think the control factor is major. You know the way Pep likes his players to play. Like Doku was not a Pep Guardiola winger.
Yeah.
No.
He's hectic. He loses the ball a lot, which is fine because that's the type of player he is. But he loses the ball a lot, and that causes transitions going the other way, which Pep Guardiola's sides don't like because of how high Rodri pushes up the pitch. That kind of left, not like United, but a bit like United. You know the way United don't press high enough up the pitch, and there's that shopping board in the middle of the park with no fruit on it.
Yeah.
And it's just that. That's kind of like the way City are sometimes when Rodri pushes up the pitch, Doku loses the ball, and there's a transition opportunity going the other way. So Grealish coming back, he kind of keeps the ball more in the final third, appreciates possession a bit more. So definitely, for your point, I do think Grealish can be a huge impact coming back for them.
But yeah, going on to Arsenal, like you were saying, so you got Trossard. I think even Jorginho, right?
Yeah.
Huge.
He is someone who I don't think he's got no airs and graces about him, but he just can control a game like some of the best. Right? Doesn't always do it, and granted, but if you play the football that Arsenal play, and you're in a position where you need either just change the tempo or control it, like you bring him on, right? He's the kind of player you want. Look, they've got Thomas Partey coming back, who performed well for them last season. I don't know that he gets in the team really, and
I agree. To be honest.
I mean, at the start of the season, Arteta tried to shoehorn him in as like an inverted right back. That didn't really work out for him well at the start.
No,
he doesn't have that profile. He's been very poor. I know he's been injured for a long time, but I've watched him a couple of games. He's been extremely poor.
But yeah, so I mean, look, also Emil Smith Rowe. I mean, he was someone who the time that Saka was coming up, he was the one that people were looking at really out of the two. And there was talks of him going on loan, wasn't there, or being sold last summer. But he's still someone who has a hell of a lot to give, and will have a point to prove, and will want to prove it. Look, I mean, you could make a case for Eddie Nketiah. I don't know how big that case would be. It's probably more of a briefcase than a suitcase, but you could make it. He comes up with some goals sometimes, but yeah, look, I think when you look at Arsenal's squad, of the three, it's probably the weakest.
Yeah,
I think. But then I don't know. I might have this wrong, but I have a feeling that they generally have quite a good injury record. I know that they had Saliba out for long term last season, but in terms of a lot of players out, I think they do pretty well.
Yeah, I think their only like major injury this season I can remember is Uri and Timber.
Yeah, and he's coming back. And I was thinking while you was talking, what about Gabriel Jesus? Maybe
he's a big one. He's been on the bench, to be honest, for Havertz.
He's not been in the best form recently, but I think he could be one to quickly turn it around with his. He's quite fast.
Also, just on that, Dylan, Havertz. What is it with I mean, obviously, like players go to clubs and it doesn't work, but this has happened a few times with Chelsea. They had Kevin De Bruyne, didn't do anything, was sold, came back a superstar. They had Mo Salah, didn't do anything, came back, was sold, and is now a superstar. Kai Havertz, again, everyone was chasing him, went to Chelsea, seemingly did nothing and was, a bit shocking. And Arteta's getting a tune out of him. We're starting to see the player that people wanted, or the player that he was before he joined Chelsea.
See, I read something that Arsenal signed him based on like minuscule stats, like something like he's one of the best winners of aerial duels in the midfield. So they literally signed him for incidents like that where they win the small battles on the pitch that helps them
really
move up the pitch. Yeah, stuff like that. Like so they had Xhaka usually playing left centre mid, and so they bought Havertz to kind of play that role. And Havertz had like a similar like aerial duel and stuff like that. All them sort of stats that was similar to Xhaka. But he's doing well up top now, and I actually think they're a better team when he plays up top.
Yeah,
he's playing the Firmino role effectively, isn't he? The way Klopp did, he's dropping into that space in between the attack and midfield. But if to go back to your point, it has happened a lot at Chelsea. Funny enough, you mentioned Salah. I done an article on the Moneyball thing the other day. Scotland now, Ian Graham, who was at Liverpool previously, he now runs, I think it's called Ludonatics, all the data kind of profiling. Ian Graham's biggest thing was that Salah didn't fail at Chelsea.
Yeah.
That per the underlying numbers, Salah was doing very well at Chelsea. I'm not sure if that's suited the same for De Bruyne. It was an interesting thing I seen the other day, but I agree. It seems centre forwards, especially. I think we left out Lukaku. Lukaku has failed at Chelsea. Havertz has failed at Chelsea playing as a centre forward. I wouldn't say Nicholas Jackson's failing right now. To be fair, I think Nicholas Jackson's doing quite well. But just I don't know. Maybe it's the environment at Chelsea, that kind of in and out the door. You never feel like you're. I feel like it's not a comfortable environment, especially when you don't know whether your manager is going to be here next season or not. Like you come into Liverpool, you have Jurgen Klopp, unfortunately now he's leaving this summer. But you come into Liverpool as a football player, you've Jurgen Klopp at the front door. You know he's going to be there for a number of years. You can put your trust in him. He's a person who's going to put his arm around you if anything goes wrong. The environment there is perfect. It's clear. It's concise. You walk into Chelsea, under, who did Havertz come in under? Was it Lampard or
Lampard?
Tuchel? I think it was Lampard, wasn't it? So
Yeah.
you walk into Chelsea under Lampard. A couple of months later, it's Tuchel. Then Tuchel's out the door. Like, it's just, and not just Havertz in general, but for any player coming into Chelsea, it's Lampard out the door. It was Hiddink, it was Di Matteo, it was Mourinho, Conte. It's just, players can't put their trust in a manager who they don't know is going to be there in a couple of months. And it comes back to the United point as well, as why so many players have failed at United. Players are coming in at United under a style of play of a certain manager. That manager's getting sacked. And you have a group of players that play a certain style of play. It's going to happen with Anthony if Ten Hag gets sacked. You have a group of players at a club that can only play a certain style of play that are now just getting thrown out of the club. And they look like they failed. They go on to another club who play the same style of play that they want and they'll be successful. That could be what's going to happen with Havertz. He's went to Arteta, who plays to his strengths instead of exposing his weaknesses. And he's turned into one of the most influential players in the Premier League this season, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think at Chelsea, also the issue is like players are coming in and there's like they can't afford to have a bad game because they bought so many players that if you have a bad game, there's another 3 players in your position that could come in the next game. So they can't afford to have a bad game.
Yeah, and also everyone's got an 8-year contract. Yeah. So
exactly that baffling.
I think that's a podcast for another day. I think, isn't it?
100%.
In and of itself. But so who's that? Who are those people for Liverpool then? Who comes off the bench and changes those games for you? Because and also I guess a part of that, I guess for you, Scott, as a Liverpool fan, who is your starting front three when everyone's fit? Is it Diaz, Nunez, and Salah? Do you find a space for Jota?
So my ideal front three would be Jota on the left, Nunez down the middle, and then Salah on the right. That would be mine.
Wow. So you'd leave Diaz out. Yeah. He's been on fire recently, though.
Yeah, I know, but I think like for instance, I don't think we lose that game against United if Diogo Jota is on the pitch. Yeah, like I think in that scenario where Gakpo's 5-on-2, Gakpo made the decision to carry the ball forward and then he gave the pass late. Where I don't think Jota would have passed. I think Jota would have kept going forward, and he would have made the decision late. And I think that would have been a better decision to make it late rather than Gakpo made it instead of going early, he'd make the pass in the middle. Right, I think going early or late would have been the better scenario in that situation.
Yeah,
There's an argument to be had that he's the best finisher in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think
right now, Jota.
I think Carragher said
there is an argument.
Jota the best finisher Liverpool have ever had.
Don't know about that. He would be up there though. Yeah. I'd love to see his underlying numbers. Him or Young-min Son. I think him and Son are probably the best finishers in the Premier League at this moment in time. Obviously, young Kane has left the picture. But look, every time I see Jota, I probably agree with Scott's front three. To be honest, I think Diaz, for all his endeavour and his pace and his power, his end product at times can be a bit. I've seen a lot of Liverpool fans complain about it. I don't watch a lot of Liverpool because, to be honest, I'd have to tear my own eyes out. They're that good this season. But Jota's end product is unquestionable. It's always there. Yeah. It's reliable. He's kind of like Salah in the sense of he's going to score. He's inevitable. Mm. So, and then, look, the unpredictability of Nunez up front, he's a striker you can't mark.
Yeah. Like, there's a joke in the Liverpool community that Jota will go 90 minutes, have an absolutely terrible game, drop like a 3.0, but then he'll score in like the 92nd minute. Just out of nowhere.
But and I'm sure you could probably pull out 6 or 7 clips of him doing that, probably from this season alone.
Oh, yeah.
But I must say, start of the season, looking at Liverpool's team, I think there was a big question mark, wasn't there, about the midfield? Yeah. Right? We're talking about up top. There was a big question mark about what sits behind that front three, and I just didn't see it working with McAllister, Szoboszlai, and I didn't even know anything about Endo, right? But it seems like that's a really good balance when you can get them all on the pitch at the same time.
Yeah, I agree. I think myself included, we were a bit shocked. Like, Endo, where are we getting Endo? Yeah, I honestly think he's probably been bargain of the season.
Yeah, he'd have to be.
He's been phenomenal.
He'd have to be. So if one of those drops out, who steps in there?
It depends who drops out. Like, if Endo drops out, then McAllister will drop back be the number 6 again, and then you'd probably have Curtis Jones out on the left, or Gravenberch out on the left. And then if it's like Szoboszlai who drops out, you'll put McAllister to the right or to the left. I think McAllister's like our do-all midfielder. He could play all 3 roles to high level, and I think he has this season.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think I even in an earlier podcast, I think I picked him as signing of the season in predictions.
Did you?
Yeah. I think
he is.
I think Paddy called me out. He said he thought Szoboszlai would have been better, but I said McAllister.
Yeah, McAllister has been better, I think, to be honest, this season. What, like, my kind of thing is, this is a new thing in football, the 6 and 2 8s. It's that way you describe McAllister as. I would say he's an 8. He's not really a 6, isn't he? He's kind of like an 8. Yeah. Definitely not a hybrid in between an 8 and 10.
So the way I see our midfield is like we have our defensive midfielder, the 6, and then our left centre mid is the number 8, who's the ball carrier. He'll dribble the ball up the pitch, and then our right centre mid, he's like a hybrid 8 and 10, and he'll like interchange with the right back and the right winger.
And so
you think that's
right centre mid is
that's Szoboszlai or Elliott playing on that position.
Yeah, who've both been brilliant this season, to be fair. Szoboszlai's engine is, I think, what kind of makes that midfield work, because McAllister and Endo. Well, would you describe Endo as quick?
No, I probably wouldn't describe him as quick.
Good positional sense, though. He has a very good positional sense. That was a signing probably made off the data analytics thing in Liverpool, I'd imagine. That type of signing.
Yeah.
To identify someone from Stuttgart.
Yeah, where was he before? Was it Stuttgart?
Yeah, Stuttgart, yeah.
Stuttgart, yeah. Right. But he had captained Japan. I remember, was it the World Cup? It would have been the World Cup. I watched him. And that was the World Cup. He was in the World Cup 2022 with Japan, wasn't he?
I assume so, yeah.
So you were watching Enzo for Argentina and Endo for Japan. And he was I remember watching, he was quality. Him and Doan, he played against West Ham last week for Freiburg. They were unbelievable in the World Cup for Japan. Did they beat Spain?
I'm not sure. I
think that was the last game, wasn't it, of the group?
Yeah, did they beat Spain or Germany? Was it Germany?
I don't know. They beat Germany at one World Cup. I don't know if that was 2018 though. I feel like I'm getting my World Cups mixed up.
Well, Germany went out, didn't they, last World Cup?
Yeah.
There was the Spain thing with the ball not going over the line.
Japan beat and Spain.
They beat Germany and Spain.
But I think that ball over the line thing, the ball over the line thing was against Spain, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was against Spain.
Yeah.
Spain was the last, and Doan scored.
Yeah, what a baller, honestly. He was terrible against West Ham, though, of course, but he's a baller.
So, final thoughts, Dylan. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League?
You haven't changed my mind in this podcast. Very close, though, but yeah, City. I'm going to stick with City.
And Josh, are you still sticking with Arsenal?
I am, yeah. I'll down the hill.
And I'm sticking with Liverpool, and our producer, Alfie. Who are you going for?
Do you know what? I think Josh has convinced me with Arsenal. And after looking at the stats, they've scored the most, conceded the least. I think Arsenal might do it.
Ooh,
my guy. Hey,
Josh is looking for
So we have two for Arsenal and then one for each of the other teams. So we'll see how this plays on out, and we'll catch us next week for another podcast.